Hey, good morning. Happy Monday and welcome to Gen Taub Live. The question on my mind this morning is whether Elon Musk will buy MSNBC. And if he's even in the market, will Comcast bite? Do they need to? What can happen? Can anyone stop him? Now, let me just back up and say a couple things. It got announced. Comcast officially announced that they would be spinning off, creating a new company called SpinCo, and spinning off most of their cable television assets. And I need to give you that background first. And the actual spin, speaking of SpinCo, that Wall Street analysts are giving on what's going on here. We'll see if it pans out. It's a nice try. So let's first let's first just note our question here. Will Elon Musk buy MSNBC? And the reason why I think you know that I'm asking this question is because of this very tweet. And let me just bump this up. After Donald Trump Jr. put up a tweet, which I will show you a screenshot of in a moment, about, hey, Elon, wouldn't it be funny if you bought MSNBC out of this spinoff? Elon's response was, how much does it cost? Now, that may be, in your mind, kind of flip, but he has done this before. It's kind of his little joke. So let me blow this up for you. Okay, so here's that original tweet I am talking about. Donald Trump Jr., he said at first, hey, at Elon Musk, I have the funniest idea ever. And that was, if you can see, a quote tweet above, something from Wall Street Maeve saying Comcast is putting MSNBC up for sale. CNN just announced major layoffs coming. Maybe the new owners will figure out that lying nonstop to your audience is a lousy business model. And no, they don't lie nonstop to their audience. Perhaps he's confused with Fox News or Newsmax. And it's not even nonstop over there, but it's pretty steady. So Elon's response was, how much does it cost? Now, just so you know, and I think this is the part that you may not be fully aware of here. So this is from 2017. And I know this is years before Elon finally bought Twitter. He said in December of 2017, I love Twitter. Some rando named Dave Smith said, you should buy it then. And he said, how much is it? Now, this is clearly a callback. Now, you may say, well, let me just remove this for a second. So let's just start from the question of, is he actually interested or is he trolling? As if that makes a difference for Elon Musk, number one. Number two, would he be able to actually buy Comcast? And why what's a little bit more about what's going on with this merger? So let me share with you this next slide here, which is as follows. Elon Musk has never been richer. He's now worth nearly $350 billion. Now, that original tweet, let's just lay it on the table. MSNBC is not exactly up for sale. Not exactly, but when it comes to how corporate transactions and spinoffs and mergers work, it doesn't really matter as a practical matter whether MSNBC is up for sale, because even if this spinoff happens, they're valuing this company, this new spinoff. So we've got Comcast, and one of Comcast's subsidiaries is NBC Universal, right? And right now, NBC Universal includes like the NBC station, as well as the cable networks, including MSNBC and so on. The spinoff company they're calling SpinCo is valued at $7 billion. And I think you can do the math that $7 billion is less than $350 billion. I mean, he would not be paying cash, right, for it. And of course, Elon's net worth is in large part stock in his various companies. But I think you know as well as I do that you can either sell or pledge stock in exchange for money, etc. Now, the bottom line is, if he wanted to, he could just buy the whole SpinCo and not even have to specifically buy MSNBC and then do what he wants with it. Now, I need to back up for you and say why this would be terrible in a little more details. Of course, it would be awful for Elon Musk to do this. And I was so upset that on just even thinking about this the other day, that over on Bluesky, I tagged Mark Cuban, he is the so-called friendly billionaire, and hold that thought for a moment, and said, hey, why don't you do some kind of, takeover, a leverage buyout of MSNBC? And what I meant by that, of course, is after they spin off the company, they could take the whole thing private maybe, and then he could run MSNBC and the whole thing wouldn't have to be a public company anymore. Now, who knows if he'll do that? That's kind of not really the point. The point here is, speaking of echo chambers, if Elon Musk bought all these television networks, I mean, it would be like, it would make Fox News or faux news look like it was, I don't know, NPR or what the New York Times used to be. I mean, I don't even know what to say to you. So it would be a terrible, terrible thing to have Elon Musk owning this company. Now, I want to back you up a little bit and talk to you a little bit about what's a little more on the deal, and then how Elon Musk is in no position to run anything and never has been. And he went on a ketamine, apparently, allegedly, was on a ketamine binge the other night. Remember, ketamine, this thing can be a therapeutic drug, but it's something that killed Friends star Matthew Perry when he overdosed. He basically overdosed and drowned in his hot tub. God forbid that happens to anyone else. At any rate, apparently Elon Musk was on a ketamine binge the other night and going crazy over on his website, Twitter. And there's some commentary I have about that. Now, Sue Odin, I don't know how many right-wing channels can be sustained. I really don't know the answer to that question. Now, what I want to say to you guys, though, is as follows. This is what the deal is about. And this is why Elon Musk might be able to actually buy now or even later. So let's start with Comcast's announcement, my friends. Okay, so Comcast made this announcement, and this was on the 20th. Now, this month of November. Keep in mind, they hinted around Halloween that this is something they might do. But now they're at the point in terms of legal and regulatory disclosure where Comcast has to make this announcement. So the lead on their press release is that they are going to create, they say, a leading independent media business through a spinoff of select cable television networks. Okay, so the idea here, and again, this was from last Wednesday, was that they were going to create a new publicly traded company, and that would have like the NBC Universal's cable TV networks, and this would include CNBC, MSNBC, even the Golf Channel, and then some digital assets, which I did not even know they own, which is Fandango and Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, so this would be a so-called tax-free spinoff. Now, let me tell you what that kind of means. What that means is if you are an existing shareholder or through your mutual fund, you own Comcast stock, you will be given, instead of just owning, let me just say this differently. So right now, if you own Comcast stock, right, there you are with your share of Comcast or your 100 shares, or you own it through a mutual fund, and you are like Comcast stockholder. After the spinoff is in effect, you will own equal value of both Comcast shares and these equal value in proportion to the ownership, right? And this new SpinCo. So you will now become a shareholder of Comcast and SpinCo. And the way they arrange it, it's called a tax-free merger for tax purposes. But what that also means is, and I'm picking a number here because there are some dominant shareholders here, but let's say 80%, let's just say 80% of existing Comcast shareholders are like retail investors, like you and me, or we own it through a mutual fund. And let's say that same proportion would be the owners of this SpinCo also. I'm sorry I'm getting into the weeds, but I think this is a little helpful. Okay, so what is the take people have on this? this official spin on this is something that you can see in this article from Semaphore. I think it's very good. And this article, the headline says, Comcast will issue its cable spinoff a hunting license. Now, what is meant by that? Well, a couple of things. The idea here is that, and again, this is how it's being sold to the public. And I don't know if this is the case, but the idea is that this new company is going to be well capitalized, meaning Comcast is not planning to dump all of its bad assets and all of its bad debt into this new company. The idea is it's going to be ready to run and start buying up other cable assets. It's supposed to be a kind of consolidator. And let me blow this up. The thinking is, look, and I'm going to read you the Semaphore article. Let me just go back and tell you who wrote it. Someone named Liz Hoffman. Go Liz. So this is what the plan is. This is the gospel. And she says this, that corporate spinoffs are born as takeover prey. They are often unloved, underperforming divisions flung out to shareholders wearing a come and get it sign for potential acquirers. Okay, so in other words, hear me out here. Normally, when you plan a spinoff, what you're saying is, would someone come buy these things because we're not so psyched about it? It's kind of like planning a garage sale where that's what they say in the Midwest. I think tag sale, they say on the East Coast. I don't know, whatever. There are different things. It's like kind of saying, putting an up for sale sign. Now, that's the norm. However, what she is saying, Liz Hoffman is saying here, is that, about a quarter of 1 billion plus corporate spinoffs. So that's a quarter, as you know, $250 million plus spinoffs. So, a quarter of $1 billion plus corporate spinoffs. So a fourth of the spinoffs that had a valuation of $1 billion for the spun off company that debuted between 2016 and 2021 in that 5-year period have already been snapped up, according to S&P Capital IQ data. And she is saying, Liz Hoffman is saying that Comcast is doing something different. And that it is, as it is spinning off this new unit that's going to hold the assets, CNBC and MSNBC and so on, that it plans to send them out with a clean balance sheet and the financial firepower to roll up other media assets. In other words, they're saying it is a predator, not prey. And right now, Comcast, the parent company over the whole thing, the umbrella, has $101 billion of debt. And that would be, and it's saying that would give it the ability to borrow. It would carry little of the $101 billion of debt. So it would be able to borrow. And so they're saying, again, that this will be difficult. This is a plan. Now, they say, again, this is the story, that the company sees an opportunity to scoop up networks that legacy Hollywood players like Warner Brothers, Discover, Paramount, or even Disney might jettison. Now, guys, that's a nice plan. I don't know if they're going to do it, but this is what they're going to be hard selling. And why this will be that way is because if this SpinCo spins off the way they're planning, where existing Comcast shareholders will own some Comcast and own some SpinCo, they'll rename it. I think what that means is if you are a shareholder of, when you have your SpinCo shares, there might be a really good market. Like in the minute after the deal goes through, these stocks will be trading separately price-wise, right? And the thinking is, what if people think this is going to be a better business? Okay, I've heard this before. I don't mean to be a skeptic. I have not looked at closely at these balance sheets or these numbers. But before you jump out and decide you're going to buy anything, whether it be Comcast right now or SpinCo on its own later, please do your own research, meaning speak to a financial advisor that you can trust who is actually independent. I'm very nervous about this. Now, let me show you. There was a guy at the Wall Street Journal who broke the story last Wednesday. I'm going to give you a quick clip from him. Then I am going to give you some skepticism from people who know about Elon Musk's ketamine snorting, alleged. Let's play this.
Wall Street Journal's Media and Entertainment Bureau Chief Amol Sharma was the first to break this story, and he joins me now via Zoom. Amol, it's great to have you on the show. A $7 billion venture. What does it include?
Well, Kristen, you named a bunch of the cable networks that will be in this business. It's basically every cable channel that Comcast, NBC, Universal owns, with the exception of Bravo. Bravo will stay in the mothership at Comcast, NBC, and the main reason for that is that they found that there was a lot of overlap between the viewership of Bravo and the Peacock streaming service, and that is the future, streaming. So they wanted to keep Bravo in the fold, but everything else will go. You named many of the channels, also Sci-Fi, Oxygen. It's really cleaving off that entire business, almost all of it.
Walk us through the leadership changes that this entails.
Well, Mark Lazarus, who will be CEO of this new, as yet unnamed venture, he's a veteran of Comcast. He's
okay. That guy, may have broken the story, but he's about as dry as dirt. So I have another clip for you from a guy on the radio. We can listen to this together. He was also commenting on this announcement from last week, Terrence Kawaja. Let's listen to him.
I'm Alex Dio alongside Paul Sweeney. This is Bloomberg Intelligence Radio. We bring you all the top news in business, economics, and finance through our lens of our Bloomberg Intelligence folks. Now, luckily, Paul Sweeney was the guy who started Bloomberg Intelligence, but now he sits right next to me. So when something like Comcast breaks, I'm like, Paul, what's your takeaway? What's your question? Paul, what's your takeaway? What's your question?
It's interesting. I think Comcast is just acknowledging that the cable
I'm sorry, Terrence Kawaja was the one who tweeted this out. This guy, Paul, is speaking. Here we go.
network business is a tough business out there. Maybe it's better to be standalone and not part of the bigger Comcast. But this is a pretty big move for the company. And let's break it down. Let's go to an expert. I know an expert on all this stuff. Terry Kawaja. He's the founder. He's the CEO of Luma Partners. Luma Partners is an investment bank in New York City that really works with digital advertising companies. Think about the companies that kind of make all the plumbing for Facebook, Google, Amazon, all that kind of stuff. Before that, Terry was an M&A banker on Wall Street for many decades, covering these big media companies, including Comcast. He's the author of a lot of the big media deals over the last 25, 30 years. Terry, what do you make of Comcast here? What's kind of the strategy behind spinning out their cable networks?
So, yeah, you're right. I mean, it feels like there's a bit of a round trip, having advised Comcast the buildup of their cable systems and their cable networks in the early 90s. So that was like a long time ago, last I checked. This, I think, is a natural evolution of acknowledgement of a sector in structural change. It's the linear TV business.
I love how he said structural change. He almost wanted to say structural decline. Did you hear that? Okay, let's keep listening.
It doesn't come as a surprise to anyone who's in structural decline. And essentially, we've got Comcast here. In fact, the whole media industry tends to be fairly strategically savvy and financially savvy. So we have seen other media companies like Liberty, like IAC, do spin-offs when a business will have a different growth trajectory or perhaps have, a different financial viability than the core. So we've seen it writ large across the media industry, and Comcast is particularly strategically savvy and financially savvy. Here, this is an acknowledgement that probably these are assets that are not as necessary to the future of the digitally delivered Peacock, and yet they probably would do best on their own.
Okay, I'm stopping there. So you can see the different stories here. On the one hand, everyone has to acknowledge, and I see it right here in our chat, that you have broadcast television and you have streaming, and cable is kind of a structurally in decline, meaning it's losing money for these major corporations. And so, yes, it makes sense to spin off and isolate these assets. I think the real question is this the right valuation? Will there be shareholder lawsuits after because they feel like the way it worked out for them isn't great? And also the last two questions are, will someone intervene before the spinoff to offer to either buy these assets in parts or to run their own separate entity, or will they, after the spinoff, as we just heard is pretty common from Liz Hoffman, after this spinoff, since it happens a quarter of the time, will someone come in and buy the remaining company, whether it's valued at $7 billion or more or less? That certainly is something that if Elon Musk wanted to buy, he could after the fact. Now, there's a question. I don't want to get too much in the weeds. We're studying right now in my corporations class about changes of control with corporations. And if in fact this would be, if this spinoff were treated as a change of control, which I don't think it is, there would be special duties placed on the directors of Comcast. But even I don't see it that way, given, well, let's just say whether it is that or not, if someone came in right now with a bid for some of those assets or all of them that was better for shareholders than what they're being offered now with this spinoff, the board would have to consider it very carefully. So the story is not done now. This is just the beginning of the story of the Comcast spinoff. And no matter what, there's going to be new management at SpinCo, and we shall see what happens to these cable news networks. I have one last thing before we get to the alleged ketamine binge by Elon Musk. One thing to say is I was critical the other day of what Morning Joe did, how Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough went to visit Freudian slip, Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Remember how I said it would be fine to have him on the show, but to go kiss the ring at his home is not done. Donald Trump is basically an avowed fascist. He doesn't use those words, but everything he does is antithetical to democracy and the idea. And he's planning to he's threatened to round up even people who are here lawfully. We're talking about massive deportation of 10 million people, mostly undocumented. This is wreaking havoc. This is a terrible, terrible person. And they have likened him to Hitler. And as I said before, you don't visit Hitler in his bunker. So I've been critical of that. But I have many friends who work on MSNBC, some who are anchors there, and I wish the best for them. I don't know if they know what the next story is, but they will land on their feet. But the future is obviously in streaming. Okay, now let's talk about Elon Musk. I've got Tim Miller here talking about the ketamine binge from the other night. You're going to like this.
Let's linger on this phrase, public intellectual, because
speak
happily and without.
I need to say who this is. Sam Harris is an old friend or business partner of Elon Musk. Let's listen. This is going to be fascinating.
Let's linger on this phrase, public intellectual, because many.
I'm thinking of like Andreessen and Weinstein, and
I know who you got. Yeah, I mean, we can name names if we want to, but I mean, some of these guys are friends, some of these guys are former friends, some of these guys are now proper enemies, and I'm happy to talk about all of them. But I think so. The phrase "public intellectual" is one that I will speak happily and without scare quotes, because I think we need public intellectuals. I don't think that's an embarrassing label, and I aspire to earn it. But I think it's important to notice about a lot of these guys is that though they are smart, they are not intellectuals, right? They're not attempting to have anything like a truly honest and comprehensive worldview that they can defend from all sides. And that they'll revise in real time in front of you when you push back on some squirrely part of it, in a way that proper academics and journalists and real public intellectuals will, right? I mean, I guess I'm describing something like an ideal, but it is just, you just cannot say that someone like Elon Musk is an intellectual, right? Yep. He's obviously very smart. He's obviously a talented engineer, but when you prod him and get his take on world events or on the future of humanity, you get like 15 lines of boilerplate that he hasn't revised in the last decade and a half about how, us having to be a multiplanetary species and blah blah blah. And with a lot of these guys, you have people whose formative experience intellectually was their first encounter with Ayn Rand and science fiction, and then they, I'm sure many of them read, but they read.
This is so good.
Quite idiosyncratically, they're self-taught in basically everything, other than in some cases computer science and maybe in Elon's case engineering. Even there, I think he's largely self-taught. And a lot of these guys show all the scars of being autodidacts. And it's not to say that I'm not advocating for mere credentialism. I'm not saying you need a PhD in the thing you talk about and you can only talk about that thing. I mean, obviously, I don't observe those boundaries intellectually myself, but some of us have internalized the standards of academic and journalistic integrity in a way that others haven't, right? And these guys have been outside cats. I mean, there are probably a few exceptions here, but when you're talking about somebody like Elon, talking about somebody who never internalized anything as a standard of ethical or intellectual integrity, apart from what just got hammered into him as during his adventures in tech. And now, and in his case, perhaps more conspicuously than any other, we're seeing the total derangement of a personality based on social media addiction. I mean, that is in fact what you see with Elon. He is a Twitter addict, so much so that he felt he needed to buy the platform, and now he has this free speech evangelist gloss on what he's up to. But really, what he's up to is, snorting ketamine and tweeting at all hours of the day and night, right? And that this is his influence on our politics. That it's
seems like there's a lot of ketamine in the White House.
Okay, so I think Sam Harris is lovely. He's a neuroscience and philosopher. He didn't really come onto my radar screen until now, and I want to hear more from him. I thought that was a very, very thoughtful analysis, or maybe he was a soliloquy, if you'll have that, about the current state right now of the current state of Elon Musk, and where he would be situated among this kind of, as he put it, autodidacts. Now, I personally think autodidacts are the most interesting people. To be self-taught is what we all need to do, right? The education you get K through 12, college, or even if you're in a PhD or law program, is just the beginning, right? But the question is, how much humility do you bring to the exercise of learning? When I am learning something new and I think, hey, am I the first person who thought this? I like to check with others who have been looking into what I've been doing for years and years. And they point me to someone else wrote about this. Well, what am I adding to that conversation? I know that's what academics do. Now, not everyone can do that. And I can't do that in my daily life. Like here, if I say something and you guys correct me. Oh, Mary P says Lincoln was an autodidact. At any rate, I guess the point here is, what I would say is, embrace knowledge with humility. And that is not something Elon Musk does. And you do find that people who are experts in one area, maybe he is an expert in engineering, especially people who appear to be on the spectrum, which he does. So many of us, obviously are neurodivergent. I probably would throw myself into that category. I'm a little bit obsessive about things. But that is, again, you step back. And I don't have much humility. I can't believe I'm saying that. I would never describe myself as having any humility. I guess what I'm saying is we have to have patience with the learning process and be willing to learn from others, not just from our own exploration. So that's where we are. That is why I don't want Elon Musk to buy any news stations, but we shall see what happens next. Now, speaking of Elon Musk, and the good news, Twitter is tanking, or the website he calls X. And, Bluesky is just blossoming. And I know I keep doing this and telling you about this. And no, I do not own any stock in Bluesky. I think it's a private company. But let me tell you, if I could, I would. On the other hand, I don't know if it's making any money yet. So, but the point is, I think Bluesky is making a lot of good decisions. It's growing very rapidly, and they're introducing the idea of paying for certain levels now of connection. Now, I know people balked at paying for Twitter, but the difference was it was brought up as a threat by Elon Musk. And the leadership now of Bluesky is saying, hey, we can offer these additional features. And plus, it's more of a safe space. You don't get Nazi cesspool conversations. You don't get overt sexism and death threats. Enough is enough. And so I want to share with you the head of Bluesky, who was talking about, the growth. And she is, this is Jay Graber. We mentioned her the other day, but let's actually hear from her now and what she has planned for the replacement now of Twitter.
Super exciting. We've been scaling up. There's been about 1 million people joining a day for the past week. And we've just been telling people how it works, showing them how it's different. And a lot of people are saying they're having a lot more fun here. They're having an experience where they're making friends online again and talking to people that is just something that they haven't experienced in a long time. And so we're growing that experience for more people and then showing people what else you can do. People have come on and started building things like, an explorer that shows the whole network or a counter that shows the number of users coming in.
I wonder.
Yes, Joy will win. Even if Joy did not win at the polls, Joy will win in our hearts. And this is a much better place to hang out. And just to be clear, I am not at all on Twitter. Basically, my Twitter profile is a Bluesky. My background, my header is a Bluesky. And there are no tweets there. I'm not deactivating my account because I don't want someone to steal my name. There is the possibility that one day it will be bought by somebody else, but I'm just maintaining my account locked down, no tweets, no replies, no likes, no nothing. Very exciting. Also, I'm sick of Meta also. I'm sick of Mark Zuckerberg. So although I have maintained, not deactivated my Facebook account, I'm not there. I'm a Bluesky. Okay. God, I feel like I love it there. And also blue, speaking of blue, yes, this is my Lions jacket. Go Lions, 10-1. I know some of you aren't football people. Okay, let's pivot from Elon Musk. And the answer is, who knows whether he would buy MSNBC and can someone stop him? Always, someone with more money can stop him. And we'll see what happens. Let's keep our eyes on that. Now, let's talk about what is happening over in the Trump transition. And I hate to say it, but it's true. Project 2025 is, and will be the blueprint for what the administration is doing. And you can see this based on who's being appointed. So on Friday, there was this kind of Friday night news dump where Donald Trump's transition team announced a ton of new nominees, right? And here are the, yay, Rita has not been on Twitter since he took over. I should have done that, Rita, but I went back. Let me just say something and be real honest for you. I tried to quit Twitter in the fall of 2022. And it wasn't about being addicted to it. It was in large part because that's where I love to get my news. But that is not really why. I'm going to be honest with you. It was pure ego. When in fall of 2022, and I'm commenting here, and then I'll get back to the appointments, I had close to 250,000 Twitter followers. And that fed my ego, right? And I didn't want to let go of that. But I still walked away about 2 weeks ago, or it was last week when I officially wiped it, because I'm willing to walk away. Now, of course, it's gone down a little bit, but I don't care. I don't want to be there. So yeah, that's kind of happened. And anyone who stays on there is staying there for a number of different reasons, and all the reasons that I told you, but in part ego is in it. And I'm being honest. Okay. So let's talk about what's going on with Project 2025. The news dump on Friday was the announcement of these new nominees for Donald Trump's cabinet. And shocker, so many of them were either architects or intimately involved in Project 2025, especially Russ Vought. Let's play. And by the way, these I'm playing you from Fox News to show you the giddiness of people like Laura Ingraham, who always knew this is what Donald Trump was doing. And, even though he claimed he wasn't. We knew that too. We never wavered. Okay, let's play this now.
Hold on. A new Trump pick. He's just nominated Russ Vought to be the director of the U.S. Office of Management and Budget, OMB. Another huge, huge job. Trump said.
You heard that. Wow. Now, let's just play this one more time. Here we go.
Hold on. A new Trump pick. He's just nominated Russ Vought to be the director of the U.S. Office of Management and.
Okay. The architect of Project 2025, heading the Office of Management and Budget. What do you think that's going to do in terms of implementation of the project? Now, let's also play another moment where the Trump transition team is embracing Project 2025.
And Charlie, the left is already going crazy because of Vaught's connection with Project 2025. Because, look, Project 2025, to be very clear here, a lot of their ideas were just classic MAGA ideas. A lot of them were just classic.
I'm sorry, classic MAGA ideas. Okay, so MAGA dates back to 2015, like when Donald Trump was running for office. Now, I know Make America Great Again comes also from the Reagan era, but let's face it, classic, for me, classic is, you know how like when you buy antiques, antique means it's more than 100 years old. Before that, it's vintage. I don't think the MAGA is classic. I think it's more like vintage, but okay, here we go.
I mean, all of them. I mean, I've read, please don't make me read Project 2025, but I've read some. Who wants to read Project 2025? Let's be honest here. But, this stuff is not insane.
It's insane. This stuff is insane. Deporting over 10 million undocumented people without any plans about civil liberties. The idea of deporting people and making the U.S. military come into cities to drag people out against the will of local law enforcement. That is insane. Okay, now I want to add something else. So speaking of insane, we need to talk about how Marjorie Taylor Greene is claiming that this whole Project 2025 agenda will be basically forced down the throats of the blue states. Let's play this and let's talk about what she has kind of mistaken in her mind, if there is really anything actually operating there. I feel like sometimes she's just reading or repeating talking points.
Democrat governors and mayors want to use their federal dollars and they want to use this funding to harbor illegal criminal aliens, then yeah, we're coming after their money and they don't deserve a single penny of it.
Who's going to tell her that the so-called liberal blue states contribute more to the federal government than they get back? Who's going to tell her that the liberal states are subsidizing the red states and that they do so because we are the United States of America and we help each other out? Who's going to tell her that, and would it actually sink in? Okay, so we've got Project 2025 and idiots like Marjorie Taylor Greene pushing it. What else do we have? Well, let's talk about Pete Hegseth. Unbelievably, his nomination is still moving forward for Secretary of Defense. I just don't see that it's viable, but I know the Trump team is going to try to hold on to that tight because they need to have all of their credibly accused rapists to get in now that Matt Gaetz was forced to essentially bow out. So let's play this, and it's kind of shocking how Hegseth is being described. Here we go.
Because there is an effort underway to dismiss both the federal and the state cases that President-elect Trump is facing. Do you believe that that is appropriate? Again, now that he has won office, now that he is going to be in the White House again, the Supreme Court has.
I'm sorry, this is part of this. I think this is a clip more about, we'll keep playing it. I think there's Hegseth in here, but this is also a clip about the cases against Donald Trump. I apologize.
That he has immunity for all official acts once he's in office. Do you think these cases should be dismissed?
I don't. I think the sentencing and further proceedings in the New York case should be deferred until after he leaves office. And likewise, I think further proceedings in the 2 federal cases should be deferred until he leaves office. But they should not be dismissed. A jury of Donald Trump's peers found him guilty. He's no less guilty because he won an election. There were 2 grand juries who found probable cause to believe Donald Trump committed federal crimes. Those cases shouldn't go away simply because he was elected. The presidency is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. Instead...
Okay, thank you. So that was obviously incoming Senator Adam Schiff, current congressman, saying, let's not drop these cases against Donald Trump. Let's just put them on pause. I obviously agree with that, but I want to get you to the Pete Hegseth. There are people still defending him. So let's talk about this. There was, Pete Hegseth is supposedly a disruptor. And I'm obviously not going to, I'm not going to pull up that same clip because I don't have it, but there are people saying Pete Hegseth is just a disruptor. We also have someone who was literally defending him, right? Saying that when he was asked point blank, who do you believe? Do you believe, essentially, do you believe this woman who's accusing him? Or do you believe Pete Hegseth? And he said that he believes Pete Hegseth based on absolutely nothing. It's very hard for women who come forward, obviously. Now, one last thing before we get to Crazy Town. Let's talk about one of the other very dangerous nominees. And that is, of course, Tulsi Gabbard. We have Tammy Duckworth talking about Gabbard. Here we go. And by the way, Tammy Duckworth has also separately, because she has served, talked about how Hegseth's idea that women don't belong in the military is hogwash. Here we go.
She's a critic of U.S. intelligence operations. She has promoted Russian propaganda. Your fellow Democrat, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, called her, quote, likely a Russian asset. Now, you and Tulsi Gabbard are both veterans. You served with her in the House. What do you think of her?
Well, I think she's compromised. I think by going to Syria and basically backing, a brutal dictator there, Russian-controlled media called her a Russian asset. So I do think that we have a real deep concern whether or not she's a compromised person. And frankly, the U.S. intelligence committee, the U.S. intelligence community has identified her as having troubling relationships with America's foes. And so my worry is that she couldn't pass a background check.
That would be my worry, but there aren't going to be background checks. And, she's supposedly on a do not fly list. So I don't know how Tulsi Gabbard is still in the running for director of national intelligence. But, as bad as she is, I'm sure you heard about Friday that Sebastian Gorka has been nominated to be the chief of counterterrorism in the United States. And I mean, Sebastian Gorka is associated with Eastern European and specific, I believe, Hungarian right-wing causes. He's quite a misogynist. I had the pleasure, if you can call it that, of being on a radio program which was live streamed from England during the campaign, where he went on before me and was incredibly combative with the reporter. It's hard to, until you listen to him, it's hard to really appreciate how absolutely unhinged he is. He makes Steve Bannon look normal. And the only thing I can say is the only positive is that so many of these people who are either being nominated or who are already serving in the transition team have such huge egos and very different ways of going about how they present themselves and how they negotiate with others and their worldviews, actually, is that there may be just so much drama that they can't get much done. However, that is a slim read of a hope. Now, let us now do, because all I can do, my friends, is laugh. I want to share with you this kind of infamous clip involving Sebastian.
Rebuild your home. They want to take away your house.
Hold on, guys. This is Sebastian Gorka, and this is when he is at a CPAC conference in 2019. 2016, not so long ago. And this is Gorka talking about what liberals want to do. So guys, listen up to what liberals want to do.
They want to rebuild your home. They want to take away your hamburgers. This is what Stalin dreamt about but never achieved.
Okay. This is crazy town, but I'm actually going to fact check him. Now, obviously, I cannot, and no one can fully know what Stalin dreamt about. Now, even if Stalin kept a dream journal, Stalin's dream journal would only be what his contemporaneous account was of what his dreams are. And I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you that Joseph Stalin did not actually keep a dream journal. So I gotta say this thing. I just got to play for you once again what he said so you understand what I want to fact check here.
Rebuild your home. They want to take away your hamburgers. This is what Stalin dreamt about but never achieved.
Okay, factual question. Did Joseph Stalin want to take away people's hamburgers? I did my research, and what I found out here, just to start, is that there's a book called What's Cooking in the Kremlin. And in this book, bear with me, my friends, we have this bit of information about Joseph Stalin. Now, I know this may shock you that I actually do want to do a little fact checking here, but here's this fabulous book, What's Cooking in the Kremlin? And here's what we have. Let's first talk about Lenin so that you can understand the contrast between Lenin and Stalin and whether either of them would have taken away our hamburgers. Okay, so on the night before Lenin ordered the Tsar and his family shot, remember, like kind of launching the Russian Revolution, in July 1918, the quality of the fare had declined considerably. They were forced to suffer modest soldiers' rations. They were forced to suffer modest soldiers' ration. One imagines Lenin celebrating the liquidation with a bowl of his favorite dish, buckwheat, to which Russians ascribe magical and therapeutic properties. It has been called Russian Viagra. Now, let's talk about Stalin. A typical menu for Stalin was somewhat wider ranging than his bloodthirsty colleague, though he too apparently preferred, quote, simple and unpretentious foods, end quote, meat soup with sauerkraut or buckwheat with butter and a slice of beef, and for dessert, cranberry jelly or fruit compote. Okay, so I actually don't think that Stalin wanted to take away anybody's hamburgers. But let's go back. Let's hear Gorka out so you can see how absolutely batshit he is. So, okay, let's play a little Crazy Town and let's just hear him out. He deserves that, right?
Rebuild your home. They want to take away your hamburgers. This is what Stalin dreamt about but never achieved. You are on the front lines of the war against communism coming back to America under the guise of democratic socialism, which is just the PC term for communism. I want everyone to take to heart Donald J. Trump is never going to let it happen. And as he said to Congress, America will never be a socialist country.
Hold on to your hamburgers, people. Hold on to your hamburgers because one day we'll be back in power. Hold on tight. I'm going to fucking take away your hamburger. I swear to God, I'm going to take a big piece right into it. Bye, guys.